The moment I pushed open the office door, everything in my world froze. I hadn't meant to walk in without knocking, my hands were full of reports, my mind drowning in deadlines, but the instant the latch clicked and the door eased open, I saw her standing there, halfway through buttoning her white shirt. My boss. The woman whose calm voice and steady presence had been the only anchor in my chaotic new job. Her eyes widened, her fingers paused, and for a heartbeat that stretched impossibly long, neither of us moved. Then, in a voice soft but edged with tension, she said the words that would stay with me forever, "We'll pretend you didn't see anything, right? If you believe in kindness, humanity, and second chances, please like this video, drop a comment, share it with someone who needs it, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps stories like this reach more hearts." I stepped back immediately, stammering apologies, but the moment stayed engraved in my mind. Not because of embarrassment, though that was certainly there, but because something in her eyes told me there was a deeper story behind the tension she carried every day. Her name was Ms. Rowan, and despite her young age, she carried herself with the weight of someone fighting battles no one else could see. She was always composed, always professional, always the first one in and the last one out. And yet, there were days when I walked by her office and saw her quietly staring at her computer screen as if holding back something heavy, something that threatened to spill if she blinked too long. After the accidental encounter, things between us became strangely careful. She wasn't cold, but she was guarded, as though afraid I might judge her for something she had no reason to apologize for. I found myself wanting to reassure her, wanting to tell her that she didn't have to pretend to be perfect around me, but I was just an entry-level employee. I had no place crossing those invisible lines. A week passed, then two. Work kept tightening its claws around me. I was supporting my mother's medical bills, juggling extra shifts, skipping meals to keep up financially. Sleepless nights and constant pressure became my constant companions. But one evening, long after most employees had left, I walked past Ms. Rowan's office and heard a soft, strangled sound. It wasn't crying, not exactly, but it carried the weight of someone who had run out of places to hold their pain. I stopped at the half-open door, unsure if I should walk in or walk away, but before I could decide, she looked up. Her eyes were red, her usually steady hands trembling slightly. She didn't ask why I was still there. She didn't try to hide her tears. She simply exhaled and said, in a brittle voice that didn't sound like her at all, that she'd been trying to handle everything alone for too long. Her father was sick, her siblings were distant, and she had taken on the financial burden quietly, believing she had no right to complain because she was the strong one. In that moment, all the pieces fell into place, the exhaustion behind her smile, the tension in her voice, the reason she had been changing earlier that day. She had been running late after spending the morning at the hospital. She was trying to maintain professionalism while her world slowly collapsed behind the scenes. And yet, she still showed up, still guided all of us, still carried her responsibilities with grace. I stepped inside and gently placed the reports on her desk. I told her she didn't have to pretend with me, not about that day, not about anything. She wasn't just my boss, she was a human being. She stared at me for a long moment, her expression shifting from surprise to fragile relief. It was the first time she allowed herself to be vulnerable, the first time she realized she didn't have to carry everything on her own. Over the next few weeks, our silent understanding grew into a quiet partnership. She trusted me with more tasks, and I stepped up with everything I had. She guided me patiently, encouraged me when I doubted myself, and slowly let me see the person behind the title she wore. And in return, I made sure she knew she wasn't alone. I stayed late to help lighten her workload, brought her coffee on days she looked drained, and reminded her that even the strongest people needed someone to lean on. Our bond wasn't romantic, it was something deeper, something built on mutual respect, shared burdens, and unspoken empathy. She taught me how to navigate the corporate world, and I reminded her that vulnerability was not weakness. Together, we became better versions of ourselves. Then came the day she received a call from the hospital telling her that her father's condition had worsened. She froze in the hallway, the phone slipping slightly in her grip. Without thinking, I stepped beside her and told her to go. I promised I would handle everything in the office. For the first time since I'd known her, she didn't argue or pretend to be fine. She nodded, whispered a thank you that trembled, and walked out with a weight I wished I could lift from her shoulders. That week changed us both. I worked harder than ever, fueled by the gratitude in her voice when she called to check in. Her father eventually stabilized, and when she returned, the look in her eyes said more than words ever could, a mix of appreciation, trust, and quiet warmth that would stay with me forever. Months passed, and life slowly stitched itself back together. She smiled more, laughed more, and carried herself with a gentler strength. And I grew into someone more confident, more grounded, someone who finally believed he had value beyond his struggles. Looking back, I realized that the moment I accidentally walked in on her wasn't an embarrassing mistake, it was the beginning of two lonely people recognizing the quiet storms inside each other. It was the start of a story about kindness, trust, and learning that sometimes the people who look the strongest are the ones who need compassion the most. If this story touched your heart, please like the video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe for more emotional stories that speak to the soul. Before you go, please comment below, strength is gentler when shared. And maybe, just maybe, let someone know today that they don't have to face their battles alone.